Yes?
Fuck does Kuno care? The fuck about it? Kuno doesn't give a shit about the armor. Kuno's fuck gimp's got one big thing wrong with him. Look at him. Fucking growth hormone shit. Kuno doesn't give a shit about that freak armor. Kuno tried to get the helmet on. Kuno kicked that shit in the sea. Yeah? That shit means nothing to Kuno. Kuno doesn't give a... You wanna fuck on someone about that armor? Go fuck the mustached union fuck. The jolly troubadour shit at the... Yeah, cocking boot. You know that jolly union cow fucker? Came around talking about cows or some shit?
Yes, you met him at the gates. The one with the boots and the jolly smile.
Yeah, he's the one you want to talk to. He's fucking crazy about...
Curious, my liege. Why did Kuno feed you this information?
Yeah, Kuno's doing charity today. Kuno Day.
Still, seems suspicious. He may have it in for that guy. Or you may be paranoid.
Fuck are you talking about? What is this contusion shit?
He says you're stupid, Kuno. They want to make you stupid again.
Oh, did Kuno make your shit sniffing harder? Obstruction of shit sniffing. This is Kuno's kingdom. Kuno fucking rules here.
You hear the lieutenant hum.
Get
lost,
The fuck do you want with it? Good call, Pigmeister. Kuno doesn't...
A striking woman leans against the cabin top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens.
Good evening, officers. I'm Joyce. Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbour. You gentlemen must be from the RCM. Phaeton, my maiden name. I meant you, the Revachol Citizens Militia, the police. Nothing, honestly. I've said it to every drunk in town, and you're the first.
Relax. She meant it in jest.
I'm glad to see you here. I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to...
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode.
He's trying to signal something. He wants you to play up your...
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group. Why, yes I am. The boat? No. It is called...
The word, it, feels strange. Such a beautiful boat deserves a proper name.
Okay. How about Cordeleche 19? Why? Because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cordeleche.
She makes a point of being unromantic about it.
What? I think I'll stick with the factory name, but thank you. It's a pleasure craft, a 19-pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I mainly use it for business. My sloop, I like it a lot. It's the...
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so little to do with...
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman, assessing her.
Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around? Yes, we are. We are on Le Caillou.
Technically, the neighboring Ozone and Fas Alamer island groups are archipelagos, while La Caillou, by contrast, is a single fertile landmass. The fourth...
Okay, if you want to get technical. The point is, we're all on islands here, and sail is still the most expedient way to get from one island to another, especially when you're in a hurry to resolve a strike. I haven't seen anyone else drive a souped-up Capri Kenema motor carriage either.
Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol. It's for crossing long distances in a great...
Neither is this. A toy, I mean. It's a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Revachol, between the city and the island.
You need to make this lady admit she's only riding around on this boat because she's rich. You have the guns and the ammo. Take this Clausen fiend down.
Oh my, the E word. You mean to say that it's a symbol of conspicuous consumption? That I'm a member of the ruling class?
Detective, may I remind you that Mrs. Messier is a professional negotiator?
Then what does that say? Does it say docking reserved for residents of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A? 33A? This old proletarian haunt here. As I said, plenty of people drive boats, of all social strata.
She takes a sip.
Okay. Of course.
Nothing happens for quite a while.
As they do.
The thoughts happen inside his brain.
It doesn't.
My, it's as if there's a tiny spinner on the side.
Except he isn't.
Of course. Lieutenant, I truly don't understand what is happening here.
I told you his methods are unconventional.
Your marbles on glass, dear. Don't worry. It was quite a while ago, but I think... Yes, we were discussing my fast, large, ineluctably middle-class boat. Officer, I assure you...
The crowns of her teeth are pulsed. Her nonchalance might be related to something called the Wayfarer Act. A law that says she doesn't need a license. Sly fox, you're not aggressive enough.
Oh my, the E-word.
Detective, may I...
Then what does that... 33A? Yes. Anyway. Good. What we do? I'm afraid I don't...
There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, linking, and that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo-tribes, Saint-Baptiste, Elysium, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star.
Why, thank you. I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue. And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions. Walpines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when pine ships, centuries of care, deliberation and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees. You know more than you let on. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wildpines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? We built this district.
We. There it is. She owns up to it.
All the best parts of it. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, with its bastions, the plazas Meteor and Mosaic. Even some of the old street lamps have been put back thanks to the investments from the WP. Before Martinez was swallowed by the industrial harbour, even before it was part of Revachol, long before Terminal B was erected here, the Pines built it as a resort, a company getaway, for a weekend or a summer holiday. Then came the revolution. But that's another matter. I'm here to make sure the Pines can fulfill their responsibilities to the place they built.
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments. That gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus. Why? By throwing off half a century of foreign domination under the Coalition. Unfortunately for you, the Coalition also leases you the right to police West Revachol.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words.
But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike. I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The Union stopped all... Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter 20 racist behemoth blocking the gates. Oh, so you've met him. Has he beguiled you with his...
My colleague has his peculiarities. Let's not go into...
Of course. To each their own. Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first...
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen.
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the Union boss.
This isn't the first time the Union has gone on strike?
Heavens, no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the Union won significant concessions, including...
Ludicrous, even. It's meant.
Mr. Clare told him to... How did he put it? Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Yes. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the... There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes, every worker, a member of the board.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
In its defense, another said, demand democracy. Pretty tame stuff compared to every worker, a member of the board. Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are all...
An opening gambit, surely.
That may well be. It's not up to me to decide who is king, but as negotiations go, it's not a swell start. So I hoped. But this type of opening is usually followed by a more reasonable offer. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the bowyer at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to...
This checks out. No, wait. The chief negotiator heard it from a man at the gates. Surely the Wild Pines group has more effective channels of information. After all, 2,200 people are on...
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock, come to plead for work? If they were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a
It's implied. She's open to discussing this matter with you at a later...
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers...
She's being sarcastic. Don't take her performance literally.
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood. He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see. with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish organized labor at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came...
A mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be,
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened And your opinion, detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is... Thank you for being candid. Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for 2 decades. However much you feed the wolf always hungers. I'm glad you asked. There was a woman...
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work. Ever. End of story. Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, but what could they do? The point of the presentation is, these kind...
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
Of course. How else can I help? Quite a few things, I'm afraid. The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant, and this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have...
How curious. Why is that, Detective? I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? Oh dear.
She must have been suspecting some...
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but...
Of course, I sympathize. But I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more.
She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement. She's a negotiator. Just float a favor at her. Insinuate.
I will be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to just...
You're in, but expect her to...
Reports from inside Terminal B suggest it's a hub for the local drug trade. This is an open secret in Martinaise.
They're profiting from...
The company has tried looking into this matter before, to no avail. Perhaps some... Or you can recover your badge. Though, if I may be blunt with you...
Detective, a word in private before we continue.
It's clear you like the hard stuff, Bruta. Evening falls. The vows are blurred and flesh. Lower intestine? The term is metabolic and fascism, Bruta. Many things, but it's mostly about trusting your gut. Who does your gut tell you is the source of Revachol's problems? Quit stalling, Bruta. We're talking about the weakest, worst, most insane thing. The weak link. Yes, them. Women. Women. Men of war. You don't like them. They're insane. Their idiocy needs to be scrubbed off this world. That's what fascism boils down to. The rest is also important. But the main thing is that women need to know. Stomach truth. You're having a stomach truth. Because you've said the hard things that others won't say. The good things, you've said them many times. Okay, yes, let's call it that. Good thinking. That sounds much better. Traditionalism. You like the sound of that. You're going to keep your views, right? Keep your views, Bruta. There's a slow, painful growl somewhere in your intestine. It is one of betrayal and disappointment.
This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective. Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and, not volunteer us to be her henchman. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along. Or she...
Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you.
No. If there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we... What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate. Briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching. I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off as sincere to me. I think she's just quick to adapt. She's a professional, after all. Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is...
The situation might have changed drastically by the time...
You could request a new one from the station, but that would literally take months.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? At this late... Matter of fact, I don't. I have a medical condition of my own. Nothing unusual, though. I'm old, you see. Thank you. I do what I can to remain presentable. Now, ask me some questions. It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw
ingredients for...
meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL, and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff. Yes. After they clear the terminal, we lose track.
While Pine seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the Union also produces the product? Sells drugs, I mean?
We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no. As far as the company knows, yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dock Workers Union. Still.
The handoff. The motor lorries at the roundabout.
Precisely. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbor into the city.
How convenient that they're stranded like beach...
Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will...
Uncovering Union secrets could also give you an upper hand when dealing with them.
We did. On more than one occasion. Apparently there's...
We know the company has launched its own probe into the Union's alleged involvement. We also know it's come up empty.
Well, here's your chance, officers. No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. This is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the trade, thousands of liters of raw ingredients will pour onto the street.
Well, at least this solves
What is that, Lieutenant?
why I had to call East Motor Track and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in.
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kisaragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves. Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you. The two might even be
Or not. Though, if you have evidence to
as eager as I am to share it, Lieutenant, once the job is done. Yes? Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3... It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance. Of course, Detective.